Okay. So this should hopefully, fingers crossed, be better. I've done the only thing I can think to do. I'll have you know, Ghosty, I was trying to get some Riz, but I actually met some pretty good friends on dating apps. Because it turns out my desire for the bro zone is far stronger than my desire for the bone zone. Because the bone zone is temporary, but the bro zone is forever. Refresh. Hot. So, like, hopefully this is, like, the latency is a bit less shit. Alrighty. Oh, let's go with one more before we grow up. Ooh, which one do you want to go? Which one jingles thy tingles? Because it's a hard choice. There's 6 really good ones. Oh, it's a lot better now? Oh, thank fuck. Okay, it worked. I fixed it. Yay. Hi, Samurai. How you doing? Oh, yeah, Ace. That's right. I'm looking for some angles. Oh, yeah. Honestly, I haven't opened any of those dating apps in a long time. And it's like, ironically, it's like, I've got nothing against them at all. Like, anytime I open them, I use them for like 2 days, and then I get a few matches, and it's great. And then I have this chronic problem where I forget to reply to my DMs. That's the sound of my dating Riz running away from me. Ooh, birthday. Alright, let's go with birthday. It was a pleasant afternoon. The sun shone brightly, and the breeze tugged lightly at the balloons strung around the park. You and 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 had just been dropped off at Miranda Eckert's birthday party. You didn't really know Miranda. Last year was the first time you'd have a class with her, and everyone at school knew her as quiet. The shy girl stuck to her own friend group like glue. It had been a surprise that she was having such a big party. You looked around the expansive park, a spacious recreation center. What the fuck? Bruh, crash. There's some loud motherfuckers doing donuts. You looked around the expansive park, a spacious recreation center in the next town over, and noticed a bouncy castle. Welcome back. Miranda had a bit of a reputation for not caring if she acted mature, like some other teens sometimes did. It made a certain amount of sense that her party would match that. You thought Miranda was sweet. You'd always gotten the vibe that she was nice, and inviting you to her party proved it. You liked that she wasn't obsessed with proving she was a grown-up. Maybe hanging out today would be fun. You hadn't had a choice in coming here today, though. Your mums insisted on it after you got the invitation, as did 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓's mum and dad. So both you and he were driven over to the next town with presents in tow. All the parents had been pretty firm about going to a birthday if you'd been invited. You wondered if it was an adult thing. You get why it seemed like such a straightforward conclusion to them. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 made a small noise which caught your attention. He looked around, scanning the area, and he fidgeted with his gift in hand. So, any idea what we're supposed to do with these? You looked at your own present and then towards the seating area. There was a table filled with snacks and drinks, supplies for various party games. Past all of that, you spotted one table in the back that seemed to have a truckload of gifts. You pointed it out to 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓. I see presents! Let's go! 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 nodded with a smile and turned to where you gestured. He saw it too. Cool. You and 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 began to walk over to the present table, flattening the well-trimmed grass beneath your feet. You walked past groups of people, classmates in semicircles, broken up into the usual friend groups, chatted away. You, or maybe 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓, received the occasional greeting or friendly nod. Got you, Ace. Sweet dreams. Don't dream of that cursed thing in the Discord. Young Lloyd. Oh, young Lloyd. Bright side, Lost doesn't seem that bad anymore.
welcome back.
However, as you passed by even more people than you had never seen before, you became aware that there were more strangers here than not.
Love you too. Hugs and kisses.
Ah, happy aging day, samurai. Happy birthday to you. Now you are old too. It was more crowded than you expected. Miranda Eckert, the quiet girl, was hosting the most populated birthday party you'd been to in a long time. You looked at the new faces and thought you saw something of Miranda in them. Cousins, nieces, or nephews, maybe? Oh, parties could be a big deal in her family. The both of you reached the table. You set your gift down in an empty space, brushing some confetti aside, and 𝐄𝐍 placed his gently next to it. He looked at the present thoughtfully. Ah, but as every birthday passes, not for long. Hey, what did you get her? Before you had the chance to answer, 𝐄𝐍 opened his mouth again and tapped his gift. I found this sparkly backpack. I figured she could use it for school or a trip or something. Your mum wants to take you out shopping the other day. You'd searched through the store and ultimately... You let your mum speak. You picked out a stuffed animal. The wide eyes of the otter plush had called to you. You weren't sure what in its face made you think of Miranda, but it seemed appropriate. Your mums had agreed that it was the fine present, and Ma helped you wrap it. Welcome back, Xana. How you doing? Yeah, this is 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓. You described it to 𝐄𝐍 briefly, and he had no objections.
Not bad.
Huh. Not a bad idea. He brushed his hands against the side of his pants. I really hope Miranda likes her gifts, but I think we both did good. And with that, he gave you a sunny grin. You touched the gift one more time and then stepped away. Without the direction of needing to put stuff away, the two of you weren't sure what to do next. You felt a little awkward, and 𝐄𝐍 shrunk in on himself as he looked around. There were more guests heading to the present table, so you turned away and wandered over to a nearby tree where you wouldn't be in the way. From there, you both inspected the area and planned the next step. You were glad that 𝐄𝐍 had been invited too. At least you had his company in this unfamiliar place. You watched him, and he gave you a nervous grin. It reassured you a little, and you smiled back. So, what next? 𝐄𝐍 did not appreciate being put on the spot. He was just as unsure as you were. Birthday party stuff? It didn't seem to be the time for cake, what with people still arriving. Nothing else seemed to be organised yet either. He noticed that himself and tried again. We could find Miranda. That was an idea. Actually, oh yeah, it made sense to greet the birthday girl. Yeah, okay, we could say hello. Wish her a happy birthday. Ask her what she wants people to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. With that point, it was decided. The Miranda hunt had begun. Hiya! Welcome. You wandered around, and any time you saw someone with Miranda's hair colour, you got a little closer. But more than once, it turned out to not actually be her. Hey, look! Finally, he pointed over to the real Miranda. She smiled slightly when you both approached, but ducked her head. She seemed a little overwhelmed with being the centre of attention today. Hi, 𝐄𝐍. Hi, Arthur. Oh, she's adorable. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thanks. I'm really glad you
Thanks.
came.
I'm really glad you could come. You all stood awkwardly. Miranda did seem genuinely happy, but there's still a distance between you. This is a great-looking party. Thank you. Is there something we need to do, or should we just hang out?
Well, you can talk to people if you want.
There are games
that
that are gonna start soon. And the bounce horse, and then the bounce house should open later, if you feel like jumping. Then after that, it's cake and present time. We'll have ice cream too. After that is when people will start going home. I hope that's okay with you guys. 𝐄𝐍 nodded. He seemed a little more confident about the situation now. Oh, that's the plan. Thanks. You gave Miranda a thumbs up and she smiled in return. She seemed slightly less uncomfortable. Miranda waited there and you became hyper aware of the silence for her. You heard a shout for a Randy and Miranda brightened up, a total 180 with how stiff she'd been with you.
I've got to talk to some more people. Bye!
The birthday girl ran off to a friend, leaving you and Cove with at least a little more idea what to expect. You both glanced at each other wordlessly. All that was left now was finding something to fill at the time until the activities began. You found a quiet spot to sit. Cove followed you to the edge of the party. He pointed out a bench near a tree and you both sat down. It was far enough away from the crowd that it was peaceful as long as you blocked out the sound of kids shrieking. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the crowd. The constant buzz of conversation dropped as one of the adults, maybe Miranda's dad, asked the kids to gather around because it was game time. I wonder what's going to happen. You made a joke about something that wasn't going to happen. Oh, we're going to play high-stakes poker, obviously. Obvious, huh? Well, look at this crowd! Most of the guests were teenagers around your age, but there was also quite a few adults and some younger kids. Cove nodded sagely at a group of little kids. Yeah. These are high rollers. The adults announced that the children under 10 had the first turn on the bounce house. For everyone else, it was time to play pin the tail on the donkey. Cove raised his eyebrows. He was surprised for sure. You didn't know how this would go. You wondered how pin the tail would even work. There are a lot of guests here and only one donkey poster. Most of the guests were a little on the older side to even be playing the game. You reluctantly joined the line since that's what you were supposed to do and you didn't feel like arguing. The donkey in question was a cartoony poster with big eyes that looked more like ping pong balls. It was positioned a few feet above the ground on a tree trunk. The teen who arrived first was blindfolded and spun around. He was nudged to the side and away from the other kids so he wouldn't stick someone with the tail instead. Unfortunately for him, he placed the tail on the donkey's head like some kind of bizarre earring. He wouldn't be winning from that far from the target. His next opponent did it far better by landing it on the donkey's back. The spectators clapped politely and the line moved up. Most teens tried their hand at it. Some got closer than others, but no one had gotten it perfect yet. And soon, it was Cove's turn. He was blindfolded and spun just like the others, and at this point, it was a close match and everyone was watching with bated breath. Cove approached the donkey and stuck the tail on without any hesitation. Cove stood back and removed his blindfold, cheering when he saw how close he was. He turned his head over the shoulder and grinned at you. Your turn. You took your turn. With the blindfold on the bright park. When the blindfold on, the bright park became utterly dark. As you were spun around, the sounds around you seemed to get louder. At least you could tell the direction of the bounce house from the shrieks of the younger children. You stopped spinning and stepped forward, tail in hand. It was time to give it a stab. You placed it directly in front of you. You pressed the tail into the target and stepped back. You took your blindfold off to check your results. There's a few oohs from the crowd and some irregular clapping. As soon as you could see clearly again, you realized you missed the mark. By a lot. You caught a glimpse of Cove as you handed back the blindfold. He was pleased, no doubt feeling good that his tail was closer. A few more kids took their turn. One girl managed to somehow pin the tail on the opposite side of the tree. You were pretty sure it had to be on purpose. With the line empty, the game was finally over. The adult running thing started to inspect the donkey, and at this point, the sign was more tails than donkey. In the end, Cove was announced the winner with lots of smiles and applause. He grinned and seemed pretty proud of himself. He was handed a fistful of candy from the man in charge. Cove needed both of his hands to accept all of it. Thanks. Yeah, I think it's an American thing. Yeah, like I've seen it in all the cartoons, but we've never really done it here. Yeah, I think Pin the Tail and Donkey is like one of those American things that's in like all of the cartoons because they're American. So like, it feels like a normal childhood thing, but also like no one outside of America really does it. He took the candy into his pockets. It filled more than one. You teased Cove. Oh, well, you're really into this kid's game. I wonder what that says about you. Cove laughed, bright and clear. Nice try, but you played it too. Don't act too cool now that you lost. It was a silly thing to bug him about. You fully admitted that, but it was okay to let yourself be a little childish at times. You asked if he'd be willing to share the prize. Some of the treats looked really good, and surely, if he didn't downsize his prize, it was just going to fall out of his pockets anyway. Can I have some of the candy? He shoved his hand into his pocket and pulled some of the candy back out. Sure. Sure, it's not like I can eat it all. You smiled and chose a few of your favourites. You made sure to leave Cove the candies you knew he liked best. An older teen walked up, tall enough to tower over you and Cove. You felt a little intimidated by this stern-faced teenager until she started to speak. The voice was low, but friendlier than her tough frown would suggest. Hi, I'm handing out party favors. Do you want one? She showed you party hats. She insisted they were the key to a true partying mood. She had two options. Either a colourful headband and two tiny party hats arranged almost like ears, or a tiara with a star on it. They were both very festive. No thanks.
Hi, Fuziyamashi. Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and welcome.
You knew the teen hadn't actually glared at him. Her default facial expression just seemed grim. You picked a crown. You pointed to the crown and the teenager passed it over to you with the solemnness of crowning a monarch. Then you encouraged Cove to pick one. You held a pink headband hat in one hand and a crown in the other. You tried to imagine what they looked like on Cove. Well, you really should cry it. It'd be great. Cove looked back at the hats and then at you. With a sigh, he grabbed hold of one. The teen with the hats clapped as much as she could with all the hats in her hands. The unknown teenager nodded approvingly at you both and went to pass out hats to more people. You put the party hat on your head with a smile and it fit well. It was surprisingly comfortable. It really completes your look. When did you get so fashionable? He smirked at you and he smirked and you just adjusted your new accessory. Oh, what can I say? I'm a party animal now. Really? Of course. Cove nodded with a thoughtful look on his face. If the party spirit is contained in party hats, does that mean they're haunted? You snorted at the suggestion. You considered the hat on your head. It didn't seem haunted, but maybe that was what it wanted you to think. Cove finally put his own hat on. He was nervous about it, his face uncertain. Aw, look at him. I'm so glad I made him put on the hat. Perfect. I don't know about this. It feels kind of silly. Does it look weird? It's completely perfect. Cove scratched his head, being careful not to displace his hat. A blush was on his cheeks. Thank you. After that, the people in charge quickly set up the next game. Teenagers milled about until they were told to find partners. You tried to listen to the rules, straining your ears to listen to the adult announcing what you were supposed to do. It was a simple game. One person in a pair would throw candy while the other had to catch it in their mouth. If they caught it, the pair would move on to the next round where everyone would take a step back and the former catcher would become the thrower. The game would continue, the players getting further and further until one set of partners were the only ones left standing. Or everyone lost a round. About half of the guests had already found partners. They moved fast. You notice 𝐄𝐫 had his eyes on you. Look at him, he's bonito. Could we be partners? Neither of you were all that familiar with anyone else here. Be a safe choice to pair up. Now! You agreed to be 𝐄𝐫's partner. Well, let's do it, partner. Cool. Cool. He beamed and you started wondering about your respective candy catching capabilities. Oh, 100% Xana. If it means free candy, I'ma open my mouth and I'm willing to take almost anything in sight. Two rows of players facing each other formed. 𝐄𝐫 tilted his head towards them, and you started to head over. You both lined up directly in front of each other. It took a while to pass out the candy. You were handed a small bag of gummies that smelled strongly fruity. You noticed 𝐄𝐫 took it upon himself to do a taste test of a red one across from you. They're not bad. You tried one for yourself. You ended up grabbing a purple gummy. It was sweet, and yes, it was supposed to be grape flavored, but it was mostly just really sugary. And then it was time to begin. 𝐄𝐫's row was set to throw first. He smiled nervously, his eyes wide with seriousness. You grinned widely, and he seemed to relax a little. The game was on. The admiral in charge shouted for the throwers to go. You and 𝐄𝐫 were only a couple of feet away from each other. With 𝐄𝐫's careful toss, you caught the candy easily. Like you, most of the other players moved on to the next round. There were a few gaps in the rows as everyone took a step back. The round was harder with pairs further apart, but not overly so. It could be done if both partners tried. You made sure it missed. You did your best as you tossed it. You carefully plucked a gummy from the bag and felt the weight. You shifted it in your hand a couple of times for practice, and then told 𝐄𝐫 you were ready. I know, right, Samurai? We made him with a hairband. You went for an underhanded throw, careful to aim for 𝐄𝐫's mouth. The blue candy arced and landed perfectly in his mouth. He chewed it twice, then smiled widely. You could tell 𝐄𝐫 was genuinely pleased to make it through another round. You were happy as well. The next round began and you took another step back. 𝐄𝐫 was even further away now, but he made an okay sign. He was in this to win it. Around you, the once packed rows of players had thinned out some. You wondered how many rounds everyone had left in them. 𝐄𝐫 swung his arm and made eye contact with you. You nodded, and the green candy flew towards you. You refused! I love how, there's bitch option. You tried your best to catch it. This is on, this is serious, this is free candy on the line. You followed the arc of the candy and opened your mouth wide. It had a slight spin on it, and you tilted your head to the left to compensate. You bit down on the candy, grinning with your victorious catch. It tasted sweet and vaguely like a Slurpee. Yeah, right there! 𝐄𝐫 was thrilled. He was entirely invested in the game at this point. How dare you hold me responsible for my words? You and 𝐄𝐫 were still in the game. You knew this was the final round. Only a few other pairs were still left. 𝐄𝐫 was determined to win. You could see it in the clench of his jaw, the careful way he watched you. You equally wanted to win. You made it this far. It was time to go all the way. You looked around at your remaining competitors and prepared yourself. 𝐄𝐫 gave you a firm grin, and you prepared to throw. Your fingers grabbed an orange gummy from the bag. It felt solid in your grasp, even if your hand was starting to get sticky from touching all the sugary sweets. 𝐄𝐫 leaned his face towards you and bent his knees, ready to catch. The time came. You looked at the candy and then at 𝐄𝐫. You tried your best. You heard him make a small squeak and 𝐄𝐫 blinked as the orange candy bounced off his face. You laughed. 𝐄𝐫's expression was hilarious. But you both were out of the game, so you walked over to the crowd with the other people that lost. This is gonna turn into a small Xana. I mean, you're not wrong, Xana. The game wrapped up and you clapped for the winning pair. Two tiny girls around your age. They were handed more candy as a prize, and everyone dispersed from there. With the candy tossed over, you were going to need something else to do. You didn't have to wait long. You heard someone in the crowd shout that the bounce house was officially open for the older kids. You and Cove shared a look. Cove smiled, and you knew he wanted it. You both ran over to the bouncy castle and kicked your shoes off. You crawled into the inflated castle with Cove hot on your heels. There was a couple of other teens inside already. You started to get a feel for bouncing. Cove hopped from the middle to the side and back, and just after you landed from a particularly high jump, someone else snuck in. It was the birthday girl herself. Hi, Miranda.
Hi, birthday girl.
Miranda looked happy. She waved both her hands at you with a megawatt grin.
I hope you're having fun.
She hopped around with her hands in front of her like a kangaroo. It was a surprisingly effective way to clear distance in the bounce house. She then jumped high, kicking both her legs out to the side and touched the tip of her toes with her fingers. Wow! Miranda hadn't run out of tricks yet. She jumped a couple more times, gaining height before doing a backflip and tucking into a ball. She managed to land on her feet, but didn't stick the landing. She tumbled back and fell on her butt. Cove clapped and Miranda inclined her head, almost like a bow. She was back to jumping in no time. Wow, you're so good at this! She bounced close enough for the two of you to talk without shouting across the way. Cove's bouncing slowed down to accommodate the conversation. My family gets these every year, and we have a trampoline in the backyard. Oh, that's really cool! Miranda giggled a bit, and then her eyes sparkled. Hey, I can launch someone if you want. If I jump in front of you, then your bounce will go higher. Okay, launch me! Sure! Miranda leapt over to you, her excitement clear on her face. Cove watched with interest. She explained more clearly how this was supposed to work, and you got ready to bounce on her cue. 3, 2, 1. The moment she came down, you jumped high, and the force of her, just as she'd said, helped you launch up. The air rushed past your face, and then you were coming back down. Your feet hit the bounce house hard to help launch Miranda up a little as well. She giggled some more, and the two of you took turns bouncing each other up. Cove clapped or offered suggestions, but it was becoming clear that he wanted a turn too. Miranda invited him to join and tried to synchronize your bounces to launch Cove up super high. The first time resulted in everyone crashing down a pile of laughs, but by the 5th attempt, Cove had managed to catch some serious airtime. Woohoo! You all had fun bouncing around. You twirled, Miranda did stunts, Cove futilely tried to touch the highest tip of the castle's ceiling. You and Cove chatted to Miranda more than you had ever had at school. She truly was the queen of this bouncy castle. Whenever someone did something cool, everyone would cheer, and if you fell, the others would help you up. Eventually, more people wanted to take turns in the bounce house, so you and Cove left. And as you slipped on your shoes, you saw Miranda get drawn into conversation with a group of adults. She'd be talking to them for a while. So you and Cove decided to take a break and hydrate. You went to the party table and grabbed some ice water. Cove handed you a party noisemaker he'd picked up from the same table. He blew on his and it made a funny sound when it unrolled. Cove downed his drink in a couple of gulps. He'd gotten pretty into bouncing after all. You were still sipping on your water when Cove blew on his noisemaker again. Then again, and again. It was almost a tune. You don't recognize any particular melody, but a noisemaker also isn't an instrument. The noise cut through the hum of the other party guests, loud and noticeable. You blew your noisemaker back at Cove. You blew hard enough to unfurl the paper completely straight. It jutted towards Cove, almost tapping his chin. Cove wasn't going to let that stand. He retaliated and blew his back at you. It nearly touched your nose. It was a game now. Both of you tried to land a light hit on the other. Cove managed to get your chin while you scored a right in between his eyes.
Great, you people again?
Someone vaguely familiar shouted and you snapped your head to the side. Cove's noisemaker dropped from his mouth. The speaker stepped up and there was no doubt. It was Jeremy. That mean boy you met at the start of summer. Fuck, it's this shit. Oh hey, it's the bowl cut kid. Jeremy's scowl told you everything about what he thought of that moniker. why are you here? Cove's tone was defensive. You watched Jeremy's face turn slack, as if Cove's question was the idiocy above all idiocies.
Didn't I already explain this?
He hadn't, so both you and Cove exchanged a look.
Do you have memory loss, or are you really that stupid? Seriously. I didn't walk here. My parents brought me. Apparently, I couldn't just stay inside like I wanted. No, they insisted I get out and enjoy the day and have fun on vacation. Blah, blah, blah.
He said enjoy the day and have fun on vacation, like some people would say scrub the entire bathroom or listen to an off-key singer for 10 hours.
Hi Adam, welcome.
They found a park because I hate the beach. Too bad I also hate parks. Ugh, it's dirty here. They don't know anything. Oh, and then they saw this stupid party and decided to bother some adults by asking what was going on. Then they think maybe we could be included. It's moronic. Get it now? That's how my parents are. Annoying and embarrassing. Why would anyone want strangers at their birthday party? Why can't they ever just leave things alone?
Hi Kirito, and no you darling. We're playing Our Life, beginning and always. It's a very wholesome game.
He huffed loudly, and his eyes shot daggers at some grown-ups that presumably were his parents. Oh, and all you can do is complain about it. Sucks to be you.
Shut up.
Jeremy's eyes slipped away from you to take in the rest of the park for a bit. It was a little awkward. It was possible he didn't know what to do. But then he spoke again.
So dumb. How can people really go around in those embarrassing party hats? Do they think it's fun or something? How could a human being be so dumb?
It's just kinda nice to do party stuff. Jeremy scoffed, unimpressed. The expression on his face was nasty as he spoke.
I am not surprised that an empty-headed person like you would think that.
Jeremy looked you over, completely dismissive. It's so rude you can't help but feel offended. Cove's face hardened. He seemed more offended than when anyone had ever actually insulted him personally. And just because you don't know how to be happy doesn't mean no one else does. And it's not our fault if you hate everything. It's not okay for you to take it out on Aether. He isn't doing anything wrong, you are. Jeremy seemed unfazed by Cove's defense and sniffed.
Aether can humiliate himself on his own. He doesn't need you to step in and do it for him.
You poured your drink on Jeremy. You made sure to thoroughly soak him before he had time to react. He yelped back and snapped at you.
Are you crazy?
Were you drinking from that? Ugh! Are you crazy? Gross! You said nothing. People were starting to watch what was going down. Your argument wasn't exactly quiet at this point. Why don't you just leave us alone if we're so awful? Jeremy glared even more and huffed.
Dumbasses.
Talking to you is pointless, dumbasses. He stalked off like the last time you saw him, muttering under his breath. Cove sighed in relief after Jeremy was gone. He relaxed, but only for a moment. He noticed just how much attention you'd drawn from the other guests. Luckily, it hadn't gone on long enough to get a real crowd. A concerned adult in a blue-button shirt approached you and asked who that was and if everything was alright.
It's okay.
I'm fine. Cove looked at you cautiously, asking just as much as the adult if you were okay. It's cool. Not what I'd call fun, but I'll live. The concerned adult lingered for a few seconds, but nodded and left you alone. The Jeremy fiasco was officially over. Cove rubbed his eyes, clearly ready to put all of that nonsense behind him. And then he started laughing. It was a surprise laugh, breaking out of his chest without any actual joy. He was nervous and disbelieving in all the complex emotions brought about by one meeting with Jeremy. I can't believe it. He spoke in fits and starts. You poured your drink on him. Look on his face. Oh. You shrugged. You held your shrug longer than necessary. You expressed your feelings any better than words. Code nodded to himself and continued speaking. I mean, I wouldn't want someone to do it to me, but it's not like I can blame you. He was treating us so bad for no reason. I'm pretty sure he'll be okay, but it won't even change anything for him. Cove paused and Charlie twisted his fingers together. Then in a quieter voice he spoke. And if you're bad for doing it, I'm bad too, because I kinda liked watching you do it, Arthur. He became bashful, barely able to meet your eyes as he smiled shyly. But only because he deserved it. I wouldn't want that to happen to someone out of nowhere or anything. You also felt bashful. So do you want to tell your moms about Jeremy? I mean, are you gonna say what you did back at him? Probably be nice about it. Maybe they'd know how to handle someone like him. Cove bit his lip and thought, I'm not gonna tell him anything if you don't. Thanks for asking. You wanted to keep this between you and Cove. But let's not. I don't think it'd help.
Alright.
Okay. You apologise for Cove for making him wear the party hat. Hi, Lamb of the Damned! Welcome to the Uncanny Valley, darling. It's a pleasure to meet you, and well, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Cove. It's my fault you were wearing the hat in the first place. Cove shook his head. If anything, he seemed surprised at your apology.
Don't worry about it.
I don't mind shit. It's been fun. The whole day has been fun. Except for Jeremy, and he's gone now. He reached up and flicked his hat with pride, giving you a small grin. Made you happy. Finally, he bent over to pick up the noisemaker that Cove dropped when Jeremy appeared. It might be too dirty for use now, but didn't want to leave it there. He accepted it softly when you offered the little favour back to him. Thanks, Arthur. I like how we can be there for each other. Makes me feel better about this kind of stuff when it happens. Yeah.
Thank you for the follow, Adam5. I appreciate it. Welcome in. Thank you for the stretch and the hydrate, Lamb. Alright, hydrate. Let's get my liquids. Nom 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 nom. Arms in front, up over the head, and yeah. Dunka dunka.
Cove suggested that you should find a seat at one of the tables. It was almost cake time and he wanted to be prepared. It was a good reminder that the party wasn't over yet.
Of course, sweet dreams!
Dream of dunking Pepsi on your enemies. Cake! Oh, I think that table works. It's close to the refreshments, at least. You and Cove tried to settle down after the last event. You took seats across from one another at one of the park tables. There were a few attempts to chat, but for the most part, you simply watched the adults run around to set up the cake cutting. There was a minor panic when who you assumed was Miranda's dad apparently forgot the lighter for the candles. He and another man went through and started asking the other adults for matches or lighters. They weren't having any luck until the grim-faced teenager who'd been passing out the party hats pulled a green lighter out of the ice cream cooler. Why the lighter was put in the cooler was remained a mystery, but with party hat girls fine, it was time to get things going again. Miranda sat at the head of the longest table. A large chocolate cake was set in front of her. She lit all 14 candles with the cooler lighter with a big smile. The adults started singing Happy Birthday and the rest of the guests joined in. And at the end of the song, Miranda blew out the candles with a dedicated huff. She closed her eyes and You saw her silently mouth something. Maybe it was a birthday wish. Miranda cut her own slice. Then one of the grown-ups took over the cutting of the cake. Another adult passed around plates of cake slices with a scoop of vanilla ice cream to the guests. Eventually, the cake got around to you and Cove. Do you have a pill for this? Do you have a pill for this? He gave you a significant look at the vanilla ice cream. You nodded and tapped one of your pockets. Yes, my mum's made me bring some. Well, that's good. Cove was pleased with the treat in general. The cake looked rich and moist. It smelled quite chocolatey. You wanted both the cake and ice cream. Yep, Xana, sure is. Because I am. But MC is far more responsible than me because I can tell you point blank, I may have pills. You took a bite of the ice cream. I don't think I need to explain that one. You took a bite of ice cream. The vanilla wasn't bad, but it was a little bland. The chocolate cake, however, was a rich flavour. Cove then took his fork and started mashing up some of his cake. When the cake resembled a pile of crumbly chunks, he started mixing it into the ice cream. The melted parts of the ice cream made kind of chocolate cake soup. You raised your eyebrow. You were puzzled at what he was doing. Cove paid no mind. Hey, vanilla ice cream is not good by itself. I'm gonna eat it with the cake either way, so why not put them together? Things like ice cream, cakes exist. Putting stuff together is normal. Whoop. Probably a good idea to save it, actually. Unlike some of the other kids around him, Cove's share remained clean. You started eating your desserts in earnest. You enjoyed yourself plenty. Cove suddenly put his fork down on his plate, stared up to the sky with a faraway expression. You checked, but didn't see anything attention-grabbing. What's the weirdest eating habit I have? Ooh. I don't know, I guess I like getting like Ritz crackers or Jats or Savoy, those like sweet, salty cracker things. They're like circles. I like getting the Ritz crackers and just a jar of Nutella, and then just scooping out the Nutella with the cracker and going nom nom. But I try not to do it too often because that's naughty nom noms. But like that's, I guess, the weirdest habit I have. It's very nom noms though. This ice cream is better than the ones in cups. You know, with the little wooden spoons. I still kind of want that instead. You remember what kind he was talking about? Oh yeah, like the ones handed out with the barbecue before the fireworks happened. Right. Cove smiled nostalgically at the thought. You could picture a younger Cove for a moment with the same look in his eyes. You remembered how your ma tried to share with everyone that night. You offered him a bite of your dessert. You want any of mine? Cove raised his eyebrows at your offer. What? You told him you're serious. Oh really, Cove? Let's share. Cove shook his head at that. It was clear he thought this was a little silly, but he was willing to go along with it for your sake. He grabbed your fork and took a bite with an affectionate, soft expression. He couldn't believe you were like this. You smiled. Thanks, Cove. Miranda then started to open her gifts. She systematically attacked the mountain of presents like a pro. Oh. Huh. Honestly, in that case, dear Xana, you would probably look at me like a dear cretin and a fiend. Because I kid you not, I can't stand flat fizzy drink. To the point that, like, I have, like, when I open it, like, the reason I drink cans in particular is because of the lower quantity. Mostly because if I don't finish it within like the first 2-3 hours, my brain's like, it's garbage now, and it tastes like arse. Even if there's some fizzy, if it's a bit flat, it's too flat, and so it's like, no, this is like 50% flat, and it has to go on the sink. I'm just, no, I can't drink it. Like, It must be like Primo, Bubblino, or it's Binno. So, you know what, dear Xana? I'll give you the rest of my soda. Just a little bit, yeah. Yeah. I love fizz. I mean, I should probably stop drinking fizzy as much, but I do love the sensation of fizz. It just gives joy.
𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮𝐞𝐫! How you going? Welcome.
She checked for any cards and read them loudly before opening a gift. She smiled at every present, including the ones you and 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 got her. You were glad the presents were accepted. It took time, but eventually Miranda got through all the gifts. She was very sweet and polite throughout it. The party went until the sun set, and by that point, most of everything had settled down and people had begun to leave. Any of the guests whose parents had stayed over for the party were already gone, except for Miranda's family. Only a few kids still waiting for their parents to come get them remained. You and 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 included. Yeah, okay, she was like, I've tried that, but like, I don't know why. I love fizzy drinks, delicious. Carbonation make drink, nom nom. Just put the soda water in the bubble tea, extra num num. But you just give me the soda water, and it tastes like I'm licking an ass crack. It's the grossest shit in existence. I kid you not, and I'm stupid fussy with water. I would, if you gave me a cup full of sparkling water and a cup full of tap water, I would drink the tap water. I hate tap water, but I hate sparkling water more. I admit I'm probably neurospicy. But just sparkling was nasty shit in existence. Nah. Gross. Nasty. The worst drink. The worst drink is just tonic water, sparkling water, soda water. The worst drink. 0 out of 100. I just... Honestly, 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓, it tastes like gas. Like just gas. Like licking a dead battery or just... gas. Like... You know that smell when, like, you turn on a gas stove before you light it? That gassy smell? It tastes like that. Like, it tastes like gas stove without the light. Gas. Nasty. Even the memory makes me want to go 100%. I will take lukewarm tap water over sparkling water. And that says a lot because amen is crime. Like, if you, the only time I'm okay with sparkling water, okay being the key word, is when you put it in a fruity bubbly tea, because like it mixes it and basically just makes it a fizzy bubble tea. Because if you don't put too much in, you do not put that's the you do not want that to be a soda water killing the no, you want a little bit, just a little bit for the bubbles. Miranda's family were cleaning up, and as a guest, neither you nor 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 was supposed to help with that. Instead, you'd both decided to take it easy in the bouncy castle. There was somewhere out of the way where you could casually wait for your ride. Miranda had also elected to hang out with you. You weren't even bouncing anymore. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 laid on his side with his back to a wall, and Miranda sat across from him with her legs stretched out. You also made yourself comfortable. It was nice and warm in the little building. Also felt like you had some privacy, which was nice. You could all speak openly here. Thanks for coming. She looked down but continued shyly. It's been really cool to get to hang out with you a little bit. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't think I'd be invited. Yeah. Thanks for me too, Miranda. Miranda just smiled a little more. So, did you notice anything happening earlier with some people you didn't know showing up? She had to think about his question a little. It's apparent she didn't have an account with Jeremy since there was no instant recognition. I heard about something. Some of the parents were talking to my parents when a kid came and forced them to leave in the park. She tilted her head to the side, finding it weird, but also not important. Then everyone had cake and ice cream. Cove smiled uncomfortably. That's good. He was clearly worried that the Jeremy confrontation could have gotten to her. Luckily, it didn't seem that anyone had overheard or passed along Jeremy's cruel words. Cove rolled over on his back and sighed contentedly. Miranda seemed confused, but wasn't going to push it. You changed the subject. What are you going to do with all those gifts? There'd been a mountain of stuff. Miranda laughed.
I don't know.
Oh no!
I'm gonna have to find a way to get them all in my
I'm
room.
gonna have to find a way to get them all in my room. Cove gave a bent smile and made a suggestion. You can carry some in that backpack you got. She giggled and clapped her hands with delight. That's true! You all continued chatting in a laid-back manner until it was time to go home. At the end of the day, you thought it'd been quite a party. Yep, that's 5 down. Wait, save. Right, yep, so we're gonna save that there. And then that way we've got our snapshot here, so we can like go back in each of these snapshots after finish playing and yeah. Right. And then summer ended. Move to the next step, yes! There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you were heading to class. Your feelings were muddled. There were aspects of going to school that you missed, and others you would happily live without. Funny you could pick and mix between the bits of summer and school. You got dressed, not envisioning the day before you, but contemplating what lay ahead of you tomorrow. Life was going to be different. You'd come to think of the summer vacation as the norm, but school sucked up the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just a respite in the middle. So rather than being different, it's kind of a return to the normal. What does your normal life really mean? You considered how fondly your mums talked about their summer vacations as kids. You dimly recognised that one year the pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It's hard to imagine. You got distracted. One arm still out of the sleeve. You pulled it through and put your mind back to the present. Oh my god, Ghosty. Yeah, probably the one good thing I do when it comes to bubble teas is I never get the milk teas. So like, I'm at least not killing myself out. I love to get myself, this is my favourite, a strawberry black tea with strawberry poppin' pills and a little bit of sparkling in it to make it fizzy. But the sparkling is not a requirement, it's just when I'm in the mood for it. The popping pills are a requirement, however, they're half the fun. It's like, I like milk tea, but like, I don't really like drinking a lot of milk. Like, I don't know, like milk tea is one of those things where like in short bursts, like so every now and again, fuck yeah, 10 out of 10. A classic milk tea, boba, the works, delicious, 10 out of 10. I love that. But like if I had it like all the time, then I'd just probably die on a daily basis more than I already do. So I get it occasionally, but like I like the strawberry black tea. I think it's nice, but specifically the black tea, not the green tea. I don't know, something about green tea just tastes like arse. But black tea, yes, 10 out of 10. Maybe it's just the white ginger in me that likes as my preference. I don't know why. Like green tea as the base doesn't taste that good to me. But black tea as the base is like king of the hill. This season had brought about plenty of changes on its own, like Kyra's visit, though that too was coming to an end today. You were happy you'd finally gotten the chance to know her. She was interesting to be around, and you liked how easy it was to talk to her. You finished dressing, which was good. Cove would be there in any moment. You'd agreed to see his mum off together. Officially, the plan was that he would come over to bring you round his house when she was ready to set off, but you both knew you'd be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kyra's visit had troubled Cove when it first happened. It had been a sudden change, thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendencies to surprise people. But once he was able to adjust, he'd been in pretty good spirits with her around. So a relief for everyone. You turned to your desk, where the box containing your accessories resided. A thought struck you like a bolt, and your eyes bored into the box. She should you wear an anklet for Cove's visit today? You did have some nice ones that you hadn't used for a while. You decided to wear several anklets. A wicked smile crept over your face as you adorned anklet after anklet. There was no way that Cove would miss it. People from the East Coast would be able to hear you jangling. Yes, of course I chose the little shit option. Who do you think I am? Oh yeah, black tea has to... black tea plus fruit, happiness. Oh, a little honey. Oh, that does sound nice. Yeah, like, I mostly just go to Cha Time, so I don't know which green tea they use, but it just... it doesn't work with fruits. The next thought that crossed your mind was... Cove knew your house well enough. You can lounge in your room to wait for him. You made yourself comfortable on your bed. This is where you'd be hanging out, so there wasn't much point in going downstairs just to come straight back up again. Motherfucker has put on the anklets, winky face, and gone full come hither. I'm in little shit mode today. For context, in our last stream, Cove revealed that he had a little bit of a thing for anklets. So we are 100% being a little shit putting on anklets. Because we know he likes anklets. Wouldn't be the first, and probably won't be the last, time that Cove brought himself up to your room without you taking him there. Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't mind getting an anklet, but like, I'm always wearing like long pants and heavy work boots. So like, it just you wouldn't see it, for one, and it'd just be impractical because like having it under a sock would be uncomfy. Having it on top of the sock would just get caught in the laces of the work boots. So like, but they do look cool. No kisses yet, no. But we've gotten an arm over the shoulder. We've gotten some sharing food. We've even gotten we've gotten a few blushies. I'm sorry, Burger. I couldn't help it. Your heart was just that valuable. I had to take it. But if you insist, it's yours. Welcome, welcome. A knock at the door broke you from the idle daydream you've been having about endless summers. See, I can have Riz. You recognise the sound immediately. Different from the cheery tune Ma rapped out when she wanted your attention, or Mum's direct beats. And Elizabeth tended to skip knocking completely. Those knocks were just hard enough to be heard and had uncommonly long pauses between. They were Cove's. Come in! Cove opened the door, smiling casually as he caught your eye.
Hey.
Hi, Ether. Well, looks like you found my secret base. You might want to work on the secret part. He stepped further into the room. With other guests, you might have offered them a seat, but you and Cove were long past as tentative stages of friendship. Your room is as familiar to him as his own. You watched as Cove sat down in your desk chair, his preferred spot. He rolled it closely to the bed to make it easier to chat, tweaking the angle so it was facing you fully. Once happy with the position, he leaned in towards you, hands held in his lap. His actions weren't the ones of someone who planned on moving from his spot anytime soon, even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When's your mum leaving?
Don't worry about it.
We got some time. She's still got a shower and stuff before she goes. She didn't want me to just keep hanging around while she was doing that. He lifted his head, gaze drifting out through the window, and chuckled. I can't believe she's already leaving. Just when I'm getting used to her being there every day, you know? He leaned back in the chair, a wry smile tickling his cheeks. She'll be back. He cocked his head thoughtfully before shrugging. He ran a hand through his hair before shaking his head, as if shaking off the topic like a dog whipping off water, following a dip in the sea. Oh, come on. Boring. Basements are wonderful. Of course we have a basement. It's where I keep the Pepsi. So actually, no, with that being said, Burger, please get out of the basement. I don't want you to be sipping my peppers. That's precious. Cove looked back to you, lips parted as if he were about to speak, but instead his eyes widened and his mouth closed into a tiny frown. Something had caught his attention. Several somethings, to be accurate. It was a wonder he hadn't heard or spotted them sooner. He cast his eyes back up to your face, then down to your ankle, and back up to your face. He repeated the process once, twice more, as if struggling to hold the two items in tandem. Maybe he was weighing up whether this could be a coincidence or not. If so, you weren't sure how much clearer you could be while still being able to lift your feet. Or maybe he was just too shy to verbalize his thoughts, or was still trying to find the words, and this was the most he could manage. The attention made you feel thrilled. You felt energized by how impactful it had been, wanting to leap up, but not wanting to break the smell the jewelry had placed on Cove. On his next glance back to your face, Cove saw your expression had shifted. You watched as his bewilderment eroded into mortification as he realized that he had been caught staring. He quickly spun in the chair to face the wall instead, allowing you to glimpse the flush that had spread all the way to his ears. His embarrassment finally worn off enough for him to pipe up again. I know you're doing that on purpose, Either. Are you trying to make fun of me? What do you mean? You know, what I said before on the road trip. What did you say before? Cove groaned and tilted his head up to the ceiling. He had not pulled her act. Oh, why do I ever tell you things? Well, how's it look? You lifted your leg up and pointed it towards his chair so he could get the best view. Cove just huffed in response. He jerked his face to the side. You waited patiently, not taking your eyes off him or lowering your foot until he gave in. Cove, I asked you a question. With a roll of his eye, he conceded. I think it looks good. Cove prodded an accusing finger in your direction. But you already knew that because I told you. His comment drew a grin from you. He smiled back, the final shadows of his frantic initial reaction swept aside. Cove perched an elbow on the chair's arm and propped his jaw against his curled hand. There was a natural ease to his movements, a familiarity from the echoes of all times before when he'd sat in that same position. This was a really nice summer. It was alright. Cove, still nestled cozily in your chair, smiled at your response. Cove idly glanced out of the window. He gave a resigned sigh. It's gonna be harder to surf. You know, it's school. It's getting colder out. Might store my board away. I like surfing. Wish it liked me. I can't stick to the board. He gave a light smile, coupled with a shrug in his response. I think we'll see Miranda around school this year. Probably. She'll be in one of our classes again. It'd be nice to see her again. Hi there, Cove! The sudden call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You'd nearly forgotten the world outside your room. From the guilty look on his face, Cove had done the same.
Just had a call. Cove's mom's ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the mandated moderate smothering to a minimum.
You doubted that, but it was nice that Mum and Mrs. Priest had their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you head downstairs together. Each step on the way there was painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tensed leaving the house, and Cove froze altogether before you could both cross the street. Doors open. Dad must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. Man, she's really gonna leave. You rested your hand on his arm. You'll be okay. You can do this. He looked at you uncertainly, and you gently squeezed his arm for support. At that, some of the conflict warring on his face eased a bit. Together you went across the street and inside his house, finding his parents in the living room and surrounded by Mum's packed things. Hey kids! Good timing. I just called the taxi.
Hi.
And hi, Arthur. I'm glad I get to see you today. It was fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put a face to the name I've heard so many times. She winked and Cove pouted on cue over the teasing. I'm really happy I got to meet you too. Well, hopefully it won't be too long before we see each other again. Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile, and then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from her grip, but his mum was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cliff looked like he was bursting with pride, and then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened her hold on him enough to study his face, concerned. She spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant just for her son.
What do you think?
Do you want to unshelve it?
Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Cove sighed as his gaze flicked over to you for a moment, and then just as quick it was back on his parents.
It's okay.
It's alright.
Really?
Are you sure? I don't want to do it now. I can tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange with the growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were there. You wondered if you should offer to leave. Kyra gave Cove a pat on the head.
Alright.
You can always call me if you want to be part of the conversation, okay?
I'll call. Thanks, Mom.
Cove still looked baffled about what Kyra and Cove were referring to, but you watched as his shoulders slowly relaxed. You figured that he'd decided to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. And with Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After that, it wasn't long before the taxi arrived, rolling up in front of the house and in clear view of the open door. Kyra stood up, smiling sadly.
Well,
Well,
That's my ride. Yeah. The matching reply got a chuckle out of Kyra as you filed out of the house. Father and son went with Kyra's bags in hand. Once outside, you spotted your family waiting by the street, and to your surprise, Derek was also with them. He stood uncomfortably, and he waved as soon as you noticed him.
What's up?
Hey, Arthur. Hi, Gove. When did you get here? My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. Thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time. Sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. Nervously kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking your mom could be leaving today. I'm sorry, dude.
What? What? Oh, you're not interrupting anything. You're always welcome here.
It would have been sad if I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving. Derek came to hang out often, so it was inevitable that the two of them had met at some point during the season.
I think so too.
It was apparent that Derek would have preferred to have gotten there at a more opportune moment.
He never liked seeming impolite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. I know, right, Xana? Honestly, Xana, I have no idea why the choices are color-coded. I'm just picking whatever feels best. But I feel like I've probably walked into some doo-doo traps a couple of times and had no idea. The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself. Well, you see, Pepsi actually does have caffeine in it, for a fun fact. if you want Monster, there's no caffeine in that. Well, there is caffeine in some of it, but you're probably looking for Guarana. Bye, Derek. It was fun getting to know you.
Bye, ma'am. Is there anything I can do to help?
Nah, don't worry yourself over that. We're just about set. In that short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags into the trunk. Kyra took one last look at everyone and sighed.
Whew. All right. I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out.
The little crowd that had formed around started their chorus of farewells and well wishes traveling, but Kyra still made no move to get into the taxi. She placed her attention on Cove.
I'll call when I get to the airport and when I make it to Nevada.
Also, you better call the moment you walk in the door at home. Otherwise, we'll be worrying all night if you got into trouble on the way there.
Candy.
I can do that.
And could you call tomorrow too, so I can tell you how school went?
Of course! I want to hear all about it.
Kyra placed a hand on Cove's head and affectionately ruffled his hand one last time. She then let go, only to move on to squeezing his cheeks in her hands instead.
Mom! I love you so much, baby.
She was chuckling by the time she freed him, and rounded things off with a small tap to the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed at his face with a grin. Finally, she walked to the car while waving and took her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him in close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad, and then wrapped an arm across his back.
Bye.
Bye, Mom. Bye, travel safe. Kyra rolled down the window and stuck her head out of it. She waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff.
See you again. Mwah, mwah.
Before she was out of sight, you decided to call out with your family and hers. As you added your voice to the others, you watched Kyra's smile grow larger. The cab turned down another road and completely disappeared from view. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps out into the empty street, still looking in the direction his mum went. He smiled quietly, deep in thought. You got the impression Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mum placed a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled when you looked at her.
This was a great vacation, huh?
You nodded in agreement.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Cove walked back over to the group, still genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomingly, and everyone else just there smiled at him, even Elizabeth.
Well,
Well, Ma clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I think I'll put on something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan, and Mum smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? Your moms exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head.
how sweet.
It's very sweet, Derek, but it's all right. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors.
Mum laughed a little at her own joke. You watched Derek look away, discouraged.
It's okay.
It's okay, I don't mind.
He was a little bashful about it. You wondered if Mum's joke had just reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Mum grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring her back down. Ma tried again to get things moving forward. Why don't you kids go have fun? Come back in about an hour. We'll make enough for everyone. Mum nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
Another stunning idea, Lani. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like a plan then. I don't want to cramp your style. I've got some stuff to work on, so I can be out of your hair this afternoon.
You should come by later, too. No reason you should be the odd man out.
Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate the invite. He looked over the assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can help too. Well, as many people as you're feeding, that's gonna be a lot of food.
Didn't you hear what we told Derek? Wouldn't it be fair to make you cook when we're the ones who are inviting you in?
Ma raised an eyebrow when Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist! Derek would be missing time with his pals. This would be a break for me. I'm quite the chef. Ma and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged. They wanted alone flirty time, and this dude is cluelessly cockblocking them.
True.
An airtight argument. If you're sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff.
Cliff's grin widened and seemed more hyped than you'd expect him to be about helping with lunch. Cove shook his head, a fond smile on his face.
And all us grown-up people will be heading inside. I assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out. Maybe not all of them.
Ma tilted her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
I'll stay with the kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
Both your mums smiled at her, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. But with the plan decided, all three parents waved and headed for your house. It was just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others, a curious expression on her face. So, what now?
Thank you for the care package.
Don't worry, I'm good. It's Friday, which means it's Saturday. I could finally sleep in. And of course, arms at the front, above the head, and yeah. Alright, and save. Do it in the new slot now. You silently wondered if Elizabeth had only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into work. Then again, she could just genuinely want to hang out. You couldn't tell with your sister. Cove spoke up after no one else did to answer Elizabeth's question. Want to go down to the shopping street? It's been a while, and I don't think there's a lot of other things we can agree on.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome to me. Unlike you guys, I haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me.
There's nothing else to do. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive, one of the conveniences of Sunset Bird. The four of you looked around at the familiar shops, trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was the most enthusiastic. He checked out every store with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well.
Ah, that's so cool.
He ran over to a street magician who was currently doing a card trick for a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped while the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face.
What does it take to perform here anyway? Do you have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who would you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mare, can I pull a rabbit out of my hat? Please, Flopsy is well behaved, I promise.
Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene.
Maybe?
Maybe there's a boss of the shopping street. No one does any of this around my neighborhood. It's just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here I'm pretty sure people are just putting on their little shows whenever they want and do whatever. That's so neat! Would we be allowed to do something too?
Cove laughed and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do?
Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found out it's a possibility, you know? But there's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure if we think about it, we can plan a show that really get the crowd pumped.
Hi, Sir Isle. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And welcome, welcome.
You felt he could try this idea on his own.
I wonder if I could do some soccer tricks.
Think that work?
I don't know yet.
With some amusement, the gang continued to peruse the stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangling, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at. Cove picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought that it had to be Greenland. You know, this is a world with what looks like 9 continents. I think you're both wrong. No, it's clearly Australia. The other 3 giggled at your interjection. Suddenly, Cove froze. You stared at him and then tried to see what caught his attention. When you saw a familiar face down the way, it all made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in a kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. Jeremy slowly drifted his eyes down the street, and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned and Cove tensed up. You couldn't help but remember the last time he'd seen Jeremy at Miranda's birthday party. No wonder Cove was already defensive. You glared at Jeremy. You narrowed your eyes and projected your dislike. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into the crowd of people. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly.
I'm glad he's not going to start anything.
He peeked over Elizabeth with a tiny smirk.
See? That was the mean kid.
What?
Huh? She still didn't get it. That first summer day hadn't been made nearly as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek. But he smiled and waved it off.
Just forget about him.
I already have. He laughed and Cove smiled lightly. He seemed in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Your eyes wandered over to where Jeremy disappeared. You hadn't forgotten the day you met him either. He was only going to be in town for a vacation with the parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time he'd ever seen him. You kept the thought to yourself. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you'd spaced out. Cove and Derek were already at the next door. Come on, unless you want to get left here. You nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What were you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, but let it drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. Jeremy was unlike anyone you had ever met before. You thought he was kind of pitiful. You and the group moved on from the stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to return to the joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had left, as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by and lunch must have been waiting for you now. Derek bounced on the balls of his feet.
Yay.
Come on guys, let's go so we can eat! I'm starving! Homebound, here we go! Cove stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. You looked at him appraisingly. You asked Cove to carry you back to the house. Hey Cove. Yeah? Carry me home. What? Cove's smile said he was amused, while the tilt of his eyebrows was full of disbelief. You told him it was a special occasion. Do you have a better idea of how I can make the most of this important day? Cove sighed and shook his head. Elizabeth and Derek became a chorus of laughter. Pretty please? You jokingly pleaded with him, much to the continued amusement of the other two. Alright. Woohoo! Cove stepped over to you. He looked like he couldn't believe what he was doing. Your lips quirked into a large smile. Woohoo! I knew you'd come through for me. He carefully crouched down in front of you so that you could climb on. It took a little bit of clambering to get yourself completely on Cove's back. However, when Cove slipped his arms under your legs and stood up, you felt very secure. Elizabeth watched with a smirk on her face while Derek laughed even harder. It was fair to say that your antics were entertaining. You were glad Cove went with it. Cove carried you home, contentedly. Other than a few good-natured jokes at your expense, he didn't complain. He made it all the way back to your house without putting you down. It was a pleasant walk home, and in no time, you'd made it back. Derek got to the front door and held it open for everyone as you each moseyed inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen, and they looked up and waved.
Welcome back, everyone.
You made it just in time!
I hope you're hungry.
When Cove had brought you inside, his parents couldn't help but notice the odd conveyance. Your mums were unsure, and Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow.
Everything okay?
Did you pull something, either?
I'm okay. Aw, Cove, you've gotten so strong.
And reliable too, what a guy! Cove rolled his eyes at the commentary and started walking to your couch. He bent down and let yourself plof back on the couch.
Thanks, Cove. I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
Cove exhaled loudly and shook his arms. He just seemed relieved that he'd made it. So, did everyone have a nice time out? She gestured for people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you, and Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Is this not like the ultimate swoon? This is a love story for the ages. OTP MC times Cove. OT3 MC times Cove times horrendous sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a great time.
It was fine. I had fun. Yeah, the bank heist went off without a hitch. Your joke got some chuckles from going around the table. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat in the empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and all the other kids. Mum set down a platter full of water glasses on the table. She looked down at the gathering.
Well, it's a good thing we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we've had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down the other side? Make sure you all get one. Sure.
Those close to the clubs obliged and started offering waters around. As everything got set up, Ma chided Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table.
No.
And you shouldn't slouch.
She pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about all the sudden attention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes, and Ma gave a level look at her.
You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either.
Elizabeth groaned, long and long-suffering. Ugh. Ma giggled, and Mr. Holden chuckled.
The lot of you could learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed, but it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His table manners, on top of all of his attempts to aid your parents, made him the model of meal attendee behavior.
Aw.
It's nothing. It's true, though, you have been a lovely guest.
I've noticed that too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair.
And do you have anything good to say about our other guest?
She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk.
Or is there just nothing to say?
Well, Cove is my number one, and he still does clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. Cove frowned at that and absentmindedly brushed his hands on his pant legs. Your mums laughed lightly.
There.
Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore.
Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks.
Manners.
Yeah, don't think I'm not seeing your elbows where they shouldn't be either. Everyone ate their meal together and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, you and the others played a couple of games and talked about plans for the upcoming year. The time passed quickly, and as soon as it was time to part ways, Mr. Holden talked to your mums and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as his dad finished up, he'd be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today.
Okay.
Yeah, bye. Can you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized he was standing in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out of the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. Your sister made a beeline for the phone and started dialing the number of what you figured was one of her friends. Knowing Elizabeth, she was going to be on there for a while. You, Cove, and Jarek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells.
Talk to you later.
See you later, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see ya. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Arthur. You nudged Cove's shoulder. You elbowed Cove's shoulder playfully. I'll see you later. I'd hope so. It's been fun. He grinned widely and nudged you back. There was a warm look in his eyes that you'd wondered when you'd see again.
Dude.
Seriously, dude? We have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five, and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left soon after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house, and Elizabeth was still chatting to her friends on the phone. It's just you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in front of your house to wait for his dad to pick him up. He decided to keep you guys company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. A light summer breeze blew through your hair, and Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked at the ground distractedly.
Well,
Dad's still gonna be a while. So, you wanna go for a walk? Sounds great. One last trip for the day, eh? The two of you walked down the street again, just wondering about a destination planned. It was a quiet stroll. Too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him when you noticed he wasn't saying a word. That's unusual. Derek always had something to chat about. You weren't sure if you should ask about it. Somehow you ended up at the old park near the beach. You glanced over to Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from it. In fact, now, you notice a frown creeping on his face instead. Derek smiled when he realized you were watching. At least his mouth turned up. There wasn't anything that really felt happy in the expression. He turned away and the smile fell off his face. His eyes stared intently at the ground and he raised an eyebrow. Is everything alright? Yeah, I'm a little sad. It's just, school's starting back up again. It's gonna be harder to visit. Gonna have homework and clubs and practices and everything else.
sucks.
Really sucks we go to different schools. His face screwed up and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? You channeled some optimism into the conversation. We'll make time. We can talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. Be alright. Derek looked up at the sky. It was orange and purple with little wisps of clouds scattered around. The plane flew high with a jet stream trailing behind it. And he turned to the ground again. Derek's face was tilted far enough down that it was harder to read his expression. Hey, I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. There was a pause and you waited for him to finish his thought.
Sorry.
I was just kind of wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who was a boy? Sorry if that's weird to ask. Maybe. Okay, then. He hesitated before finishing his question. So, what I mean is, just, is there any guy you think is kind of cool that you like around here, not at school or anything like that? He ducked his head further. You thought about it. There are a lot of guys I think are cool. Oh, Derek shrugged and then started to mumble and wonder.
Okay, maybe you don't get what I'm trying to ask. So?
Derek pulled himself together. Somewhat meekly, he looked at you while he tried to project confidence. His posture was too tight for you to believe it. He was nervous.
Right.
You know, thinking ahead and everything is important, and you got to get yourself a game plan and all that. It's good to make plans, especially backup plans.
He babbled, all full of energy and forced gusto.
Well, anything I heard about this thing where people make pacts with their good friends that if they don't find anyone else, then they get together. To get together, like they get married and stuff. So I was thinking, since it's good to have plans, it might be cool if we did something like that.
His eyes widened and he started to make frantic hand gestures.
Just you know, then we never have to worry about the future or finding someone. We can set it like a whole decade in the future, forever from now. We'd have graduated high school and probably college too. We'd have jobs and be really grown up. I'd probably have our own places and maybe our own pets and student loans and cars.
Derek babbled on for a while more. It was as if all the words he'd held in silence during a walk burst out now, all at once.
So, yeah. What do you think?
Do you like me?
Of course I like you, but it's not...
He had to pause, desperate to find a way to explain himself.
Well, you don't have to think about it like that kind of thing right now. It's better than worry about all that later when we're grown up. That's why I think it's a good idea to have a plan, you know. And well, honestly, I think you and me would work out for the best for that. So,
I'll think about it. It's kind of a big decision for just being put on the spot.
yeah, sure. Don't worry about it.
It's just an idea.
Thanks for hearing me out, answering my questions and stuff.
You felt a little worried that Derek wasn't happy. When he saw your face, he smiled encouragingly.
It's okay.
I promise I'm not mad. I was just wondering. I'm sure things will be okay in the future, no matter what.
You just nodded. You didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't want to miss his dad, and you both made your way back towards your street. Okay, look, in my defense, Katie, we're at the point where we're teasing 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 with his anklet kink. Like, I feel like it would be we're not dating 𝐄𝐍 at this point, but like, let's be honest, this shit's a situationship. I don't want to be breaking 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮's heart. I'm literally wearing the anklets that I put on for him to make him go blushy-oo-woo. Feels wrong accepting another man's confession when I've got anklets to riz another man, you know what I mean? This is okay, I didn't say no. I said I'll think about it. You know? Maybe in the adult version he's hot. Yeah, 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 has a thing for anklets. Like, I think a situationship is kind of when, like... I mean, okay, it's not a situationship, but, like, a situationship is kind of, like... It's a relationship in every way, but, like, on paper. And, like, both part... I think both parties agree. I don't know, it's something I've seen on TikTok. I'm like, oh, that's a new term kids use, so I've kind of thrown it in the same basket as Riz and faux shizzle. But, like, I'm pretty sure it's, like, relationship light. After Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room and the phone were free. I know, right? Honestly, I think it's just like... I think it's just a sweet, sweet half of that sweet copium. Yeah. So it's basically like, it's a relationship, but like with none of the commitment and all of the scuff. After Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room and the phone were free. you took it easy. You flopped onto the couch and wiggled until you were positioned just right, and you knew it was perfect, because all the exhaustion from the day started fading away. Sighing contentedly, you were pleased to this end of the day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw that there was only about 10 minutes until your mums would be insisting you went to go to bed, so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs out on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling restless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you saw a figure out in the hills. It was 𝐄𝐫. When the surprise faded, you realized it actually really wasn't that much of a shock at all. It was exactly something 𝐄𝐫 would do. You went outside to meet up with him. Strolling casually, you went over to the front door. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They drifted on lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through the reach to the top of the hill. 𝐄𝐫 turned to look at you as you approached, and you noticed right away that 𝐄𝐫 looked happy to see you. Hey. You had a bounce in your step. You weren't sure how long you'd get before your mums roped you back inside for bed. Hey, you're starting strong. Out late on the first school night of the year? Chuckling, 𝐄𝐫 crossed his arms. Seriously, what are you doing here? Nothing. No, not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was just feeling kind of weird about stuff. So I'm getting some fresh air before bed. Yeah, I know how you feel. It's hard to stay still. Tomorrow's going to be the start of a new year. The mention of school, a small noise escaped him. 𝐄𝐫 let himself fall back onto his butt and then all the way down, so he was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. You sat in the grass. You lowered yourself to sit nearby. You'd been lost in thought, or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself, but he started speaking unprompted again.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for being kind of awkward when my mom was leaving. Surprised, you stared at him for a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted you to know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things, and it's okay now. You were genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a small smile to your face. But your thoughts quickly wandered back to the first day you met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? From the way 𝐄𝐫 talked, you'd guess he hadn't. There was more 𝐄𝐫 and his dad should talk about. But it was a relief to know they'd made a start. Now is not a good time to bring up what you were thinking, though. You could wait longer to say it. It's almost unbelievable how much of an impact you made on your life just by moving in next door. Couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. 𝐄𝐫 glanced back at you, waiting for a response. You had no idea what to say. Still, without a word from you, 𝐄𝐫 gave an exaggerated shrug. What? It's you. Huh? He sniggered before answering. He looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. Well, that's what you do all the time, so I'm being you. What? I don't do it that much. 𝐄𝐫 burst into deep laughter. When it slowed, he continued to grin. Hi, Mai, how you doing? Now, I think the next time skip will be after this scene. I'm assuming so. It's usually after they go the fuck to sleep. Honestly, there weren't many people you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning his smile, you realised there was no denying that two of you have been around each other for a long time. 𝐄𝐫 broke the quiet before it could fully settle.
See you tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you then. With the final wave, 𝐄𝐫 headed for home, but you stayed there a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to his simple statement. See you tomorrow. No matter how much was changing around you, there were some things in your life that always seemed to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you know it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing with thoughts about the future. You felt nervous. Every bit of your gut felt like it was being turned into a pretzel. A new chapter of your life was about to begin, and you were worried what new changes were waiting for you. Slowly, your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wishful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you can only hope that you'd make the most of it. You're ensnared in a dream when the noise from the outside world jostled you. Your eyes snapped open. The light clatter continued. Now you were more alert. You could distinguish it as a tapping sound. Quiet, slow, but persistent. Is he outside the fucking window again? Oni, let's go! Welcome to the land of the living.
Thank you for the prime sub, I appreciate it.
Each beat was like being poked. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow and looked for the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out. It's from the window. With that, you knew exactly what it was. From the colour of the light filtering into your room, it's too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It barely hauled itself over the horizon. But that didn't stop some people, it seemed. You sat up in bed and opened the window wide. Cool air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as it pushed into your room. Just as you expected, there was your neighbour crouching on your windowsill. He was fully dressed, though not for school. He was wearing a wetsuit and a fond smile. Hi, Arthur. You stared back, blinking. So, technically, we won't be back to school for a few more hours. His voice was delicate yet deliberate, each word a careful explanation. Classes haven't actually started yet, so you want to hit the beach with me one more time this summer? No! Just way too early. No! Fuck off! Haven't had my morning bippers. Here we go again. Your comment was half-hearted and you both knew it. Only 𝐿𝐍 would think of something like this, and that was part of what made him special to you. 𝐿𝐍 chuckled conspiratorially, his smile widening. You rushed to get changed into something suitable, while 𝐿𝐍 climbed back down to ground level. Your limbs, still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them into a swimsuit, but you got there in the end. Soon you were tiptoeing out your front door, clutching a towel. 𝐿𝐍 was already there to greet you. Your eyes met. 𝐿𝐍's eyes darted to your destination and back to you. You checked the door was closed, gave him a thumbs up, and the two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path ahead, 𝐿𝐍 beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you did. If anyone in your family looked out and saw you, then your summer would be back to being over. One glance at 𝐿𝐍 told you that he was exactly the same, holding back snickers for fear of being heard and caught. The towel streamed out from under your arm like a cape. You were running so fast downhill that simply keeping your balance and not tumbling down was the real threat. It just wasn't enough to one to make you slow your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer and the day a little brighter. What lay ahead for you would arrive, and you were happy to meet it. In between. All right. Let's see. All right, so we're getting older now. We're too cool for emo bangs. Oh shit, I didn't realize it was shorter hair. Whoop. Let's go with our classic hairstyle. Alright, we're getting an older face now. Everything else pretty much the same though. Alright, and alright, there we go. Yep, everything's still the same. Probably have some freckles on the arms and legs at this point as well. And we'll have a leg scar because we're clumsy. Ooh. Let's go with a jeweled ring. Bedazzle me, baby. Oh, that's cute. Oh, alright, I'll admit. I love that that's an option. Fuck yeah. Alright, we have short nails. Ooh. Young adult, so we're still feeling fruity and sassy, but we're not like full, I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare. We're entering our yes honey phase. So, blue nails, let's go. Leg scar gang, yeah. I actually have a leg scar as well in real life, and it was also from something stupid, so. Alright, done. Alright, comfort, direct. At this point, I think it's fair to say we have a crush on 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓. Let's get deeper. Let's get deeper. Right, we'll stick to direct because direct is fun.
Hi, Infinity Bandana. Welcome, welcome.
And also, how you doing, sir? Right. Ready. So we'll save. Ready. Yes, we're ready. Let's go.
Aw, thank you for the follow, Infinity Bandana. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome, welcome.
Gotta love having like just scars over dumb shit. Neither. Surprise me. Okay, okay. This better not be no nurse stuff for work. This is Twitch. I'll stop being a VTuber pretty fucking quick if I break that rule. Alright, since you're romantically interested in 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 and are old enough to start being physically affectionate more seriously, you can choose what initiative level is throughout the step. Make sure the player experiences what they want is important in our life, but always putting your choice first can potentially make a relationship feel exciting. So we've added some flexibility in how it works. Low initiative means that 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 will occasionally ask to touch the MC, and in those situations there will always be an opportunity to say yes or no. For example, he won't simply lean over and kiss the MC as a greeting or in an emotional moment. Every piece of physical interaction will either be initiated or approved by the player before it happens. Middle initiative means there will be certain times where 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓 will request a touch, many times it'll just initiative. Alright, so there we go, and high initiative is just like the Rizlord 9000. Yep. Okay, so mostly relevant if we actually end up dating at some point within the story. Okay. Alright, so the initiative level only changes between each step. Okay, alright. Alright, so let's start off with low initiative, because this is a slow burn, baby. We started off with the lingering looks and the cute shit, and now we might get to hold hands. We're getting spicy, guys! The start of classes ended the relaxed 3 days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back into the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't around nearly as much. With school and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take the trip out to your neighborhood. Sometimes you'd hear that he was at a training camp or something like that, but you weren't always sure what he was up to. But you still kept in touch over the phones as best you could. That Jeremy kid did disappear after that summer, and no one ever heard from him again. Where he went or what he might up to was a mystery. You saw more Miranda around. Since you had hung out with her on her birthday, she'd opened up to you. Two of you talked regularly. She was the same towards 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓. I know, right? Slow burns are the best. You got to earn the tingles. After a while, the three of you developed a real friendship together. More summers came and went like the waves on the shore coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird. A sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend of 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓, friend Cove made due to them both being ocean-obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you two. Someone close to Cove had to be good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Funnily enough, Terry was also extremely tight with Miranda, who she'd known for even longer than Cove. The four of you were able to create a small friend circle. As for your home life, the Angels also had some developments. Changing laws and public perception countrywide made it possible for your mums to openly wear their wedding rings without question. Though they had a wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the US. That was a good day, to say the least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She'd no longer worried about being perceived childish as she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again, although most people still use Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was a lot for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Liz never let you forget her role in your life though, and kept in touch. Cove's relationship with his family improved over the years. Kyra visited several times after that summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer with his dad than ever before. You knew they talked more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before it could start. And Cove only continued to open up to his parents and the rest of the world. He was so bright he shone. He would willingly join conversations, make jokes, and put in an effort not to use overly blunt phrasing. Cove loved staying inside and learning just as much as ever. By this point, his studies had paid off, and he'd been right near the top of the class by his last years of high school. Things had shifted between you and Cove. You'd been friends for years, but the closer you became, the more you felt for him. You didn't view him in a purely platonic way anymore. It was strange to look back on it all. The future faded into your present, and it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life couldn't last forever. You felt that the most poignantly the day you inevitably graduated high school. It was over. You'd not be going back ever again. From now on, what came next was your choice. You'd be directing your own life. And that was where you were currently. The summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. What used to be a reprieve from the typical was now going to be your first step into adulthood. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene. The whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full-time for a couple of years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was an off semester for her. She wanted to make sure she was in town because you had now also graduated high school, so who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future. You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over a comment Ma made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname was welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she'd moved away, you'd lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. You idly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. You generally ate whatever. And the meals made you reflect on that. Including just about everything your mums had made. They often made your own food nowadays. When Liz around though, your parents made even more options than usual. Your sister had been vegetarian for a while, and they wanted to make sure she had choices too. Conversation had gone on idly. Oh, they're getting old! Conversation had gone on idly, without you fully taking in the words until your ears were piqued when Ma started on a bit of town gossip. So that's how I heard the news. Alright, now stop burying the lead and tell us. What is this so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out the Donalds won't be renting out the condo up the street as per some superb tradition, for the first time in what might nearly be 2 decades. A chorus of gasps and shocked expressions were had all around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Ma may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them as exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at anyone under 25 and cross their past. Your Ma continued on with the story, spreading strawberry jam over a piece of toast as she did so. They've decided not to take big trips anymore. Their friends and family will be visiting them at their home. Well, that's nice for them, then. Have a good summer, mean grandparents with no grandkids away from us. My thoughts exactly, Liz. Be nice, kids. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the joke.
Well,
At least they won't be here to yell at my children. At least they won't be here to yell at my children anymore. Lonnie. And that blunt comment got laughed out of all three of you. Engrossed in conversation once more, you continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Step 3. Third time's charm. As it went, once the food was eaten, the cleanup had to be done. Liz took the role of washing the dishes and passed them to you for drying and putting away. You'd had a set of cups in front of you that needed to go on top of the top shelf of the cabinet. It was effortless to do so. You very tall. Should I click the truth? Oh, this cupboard is so short, for I am a tree. You. Fine. It's a struggle to get them up without a stepping stool. Yes. Actually, no, yeah, actually I am average height. No. I'll be honest. I'm 5'4". That's fucking short for a dude. Sob. It was a struggle to get them up without a stepping stool. You were short. No, I just know statistically for white people, the average male height is like 5'7", 5'8", and above. 5'4" actually for a white dude is short. Sob. That was simply your lot in life. You've always been vertically challenged. You hoped you might still grow more, but those thoughts weren't anything new. You hadn't been content with your height for a long time. Liz shook you out of your eternal musings by starting up an impromptu conversation. She seemed to be voicing the thoughts that had been buzzing around in her own head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall is pretty intimidating. You think after the first year or two I'd have a handle on things, but no. You stole a glance at her, still placing cups in the proper place. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes, and year 1 my architecture major were the basics. Now it feels serious. I actually have to know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy, but the way she scrubbed at the plates held more force than necessary. I think it's really cool you want to be an architect. Don't be too impressed yet. Wait to see if it actually happens, but thanks. Your older sister's mouth quirked into a small smile. It'll be fine, one way or another. Oh, but I'm not trying to scare you away from college, if that's even your plan. What's going on with that, anyway? You had kind of a general idea. You answered the question as much as you were able to and willing to. Liz's smile grew more reassuring as you did. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You've got plenty going for you. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you'd been an average graduate. And you were just glad it was truly behind you. You passed, it was fine, and now you could do whatever you wanted with your time. Liz picked up on the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic.
You're a good boy.
You're a good boy, Arthur. Do what's best for you, and we'll be here to back it up. Thanks. You're a good big sister. At that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way. She waved a soapy-soaked hand with a farewell and moved on to her next task for the cleanup job. You refocused on getting the last pieces put back where they belonged. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but that was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. It was the phone's default ringtone. You casually picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier, The phone was a couple of years old at this point. It hadn't been a 16th birthday present from your parents. They decided which model to get, but you got to pick the colour. And it was blue! And it has a special charm attached to it, which was a picture of Lloyd. No, we're going to be corny. The shark keychain Cove bought you when you were a kid. You were pleased when you finally had a prominent place to use the gift. The screen lit up as you gave the little device a swipe with one finger. You were informed by the caller ID that it was Lee. You weren't surprised. Despite having busier and busier lives and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with your cousin of the same age. Especially once the miracle of the both of you having your own phones had actually happened. She got hers first, by the way. Tapping at the accept button, you answered her call. A familiar, bubbly voice came through right after.
Hi.
Hi, Arthur.
Sup? I trust I'm not interrupting anything major. Only some cleaning around the house. Oh, then you're welcome for my call. A distraction from that must have been desperately needed. Yes,
My
thank you,
pleasure.
dear cousin. It's my pleasure. She giggled, and you could hear the jangling of the jewellery she must be wearing. Nothing amazing is happening for me either. I'm bored and I felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I am free for the rest of the day. Whoa! That's good! You were off from your part-time job today. Like you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently even more complicated, but you both managed. What about you? Oh yes, it's not just a shark phone charm, it was a gift from Cove when we were itty bitty little kids. Ugh. We're going full saccharine. That's been pretty normal.
Cool.
Cool. That's you then.
So, how's Mr. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮𝐞𝐫 doing?
There was a teasing bent to her tone. She was never willing to let up on what was going on between the two of you. But that name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next door neighbour for the past decade at this point. He was your best friend. At least you hadn't admitted you felt more than that just yet. Someday you know exactly how much he really meant to you.
Are you even surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Is everything right with the world again and he's back?
No, Lee, he isn't here. Just like he wasn't here yesterday, or the last time you asked, or the time before that.
Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Can you blame me? Doesn't it seem like he should have made his grand return already? Plus, I want to visit soon. He needs to be there too. You can understand where she was coming from. This was certainly outside the norm. For the past couple of months, and the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to his mum's place in Nevada. Two of you were still regularly stayed in contact over texts and calls, but still, your mind began to drift back in time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go away for a while and then he'd be back. You never minded it. You sent him letters the entire time he was away. Cove made sure to mail some back to you too. That's how it was in the past, but lately he's been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became impractical to do. His part-time work would become full-time soon, so he could just be moving somewhere else for school, and Cove hadn't exactly been entirely clear as plans were after graduation. Cove was actually hesitant to speak on that even with you. It couldn't be avoided forever though, and you both knew that.
Well,
Well, maybe we should switch this up to a non-Cove related topic.
That works. The rest of the conversation rolled on. Not much longer though. Lee had to go, and you needed to finish your responsibilities around the house. The both of you exchanged goodbyes, and then you went back to what you'd been working on before the call came in. As you wrapped up the last of your chores, you were approached by Liz wearing a cheeky smile. I've got Mum's keys. Want to get out of this tiny town to do some shopping in a real city? Yeah. Now, it's been way too long since I've gone anywhere exciting.
good.
Good. I'm driving. That was obvious. You didn't know how to drive. Go get your wallet and anything else. We're going now. With a nod, she made a quick detour to collect your stuff from your bedroom. You had money saved up from all the part-time work you'd done, as well as a few gifts you'd received. After making sure you were both prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area, you buckled into the car.
Good night, my sweet dreams.
Good night, higher rest well.
It was a smooth ride there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at and the radio blasting. The trip there breezed by, and in what felt like no time, you'd gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. Liz had her interest to check out, and you yours. Your hobbies and skills were still the ones you developed when you were younger. When one turning a corner down a new length of the mall, your eyes caught on a little gift store. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You realised you wanted to get a graduation gift yourself to give to Cove. Graduation may have already come and gone, but Cove wasn't really around then anyway. And keep an eye out for something good, though you might have something nice from home already. Eventually, the mall was explored in full, with every shop of note being checked over. Rather than going home, you decided to walk up to some smaller stores nearby. Liz had many thoughts on that topic. Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even if smaller stores require extra distance, the brands are so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking and walking right in the middle of the path. It's a good thing no one was behind her. She seemed to entirely shut off for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all of her focus. But before you could puzzle out what might be happening, she began to mumble out of the corner of her mouth. Arthur, don't draw attention, but look. What? With a harsh whisper and a subtle jerk of her head, she urged you once more.
Hey.
Look! You followed her gaze as best you could to a large bunch of colourful teams strolling down the same path. Okay. You faced back over to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question of, what are you supposed to be seeing there?
Arthur, doesn't one of them seem familiar?
She was practically bouncing at this point, so you looked the group over again, and this time you saw what she was seeing. Amongst the collection of strangers was brown hair, grey eyes, and lots of freckles.
That's Shiloh! Our Shiloh from when we were kids!
Yeah, that was definitely him. I can't believe it. He's honestly just there. Oh, that's hilarious. That's incredible. Oh, but how do we talk to him? We'd have to pull him away from all those other people, and oh, what if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she cut it off with her own answer to the question. No, I've got it. I'll shout the name Shiloh, and then we can act like it wasn't us. If he responds to that, we'll know without a doubt it's him. Either keep an eye out to see if he looks. Liz, can't you just try talking to him normally? Likely without even hearing what you had to say, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She loudly projected the word across the way and then put on an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. In a supremely awkward moment, you could only stand there as attention in the area shifted to the two of you thanks to your sister's shout. But the many startled bystanders from who became altered to your presence, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back around to greet her old friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet. Without really closing the gap, she wanted him to come to her. Who you presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He stole a quick glance at the crowd he was with and hesitantly glanced back your way. He was trying to double-check something. Liz remained steadfast with her gaze trained on him, and ultimately, he broke away from the rest of them. After a light-footed jog across the brick path, a young man pleasantly presented himself in front of Liz and you.
Hi.
Hi, I like your hat. Just that simple greeting had Liz giggling.
Hey.
Hello! I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie! And that's Either. We were all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even larger, and their gaze darting between you and Liz. His previously chipper demeanor faded into something delicate. I'm really sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. You could tell not being instantly recognized was going to make this exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago. You were really young. I get why you feel like that. However, I am positive I'm right. You're exactly the same. That face, the freckles, how genially you try to phrase things. You're even still wearing a hat. Instinctively, he looked up at his headwear with creased brows, not making the connection on why the hat meant something to her.
Okay.
Look, we knew each other, okay? An uneasy smile settled on him as silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. And then the quiet was obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation.
Shiloh, what are you doing? The rest of the group already left. A field trip is not a vacation. We're on schedule.
Startled, your head snapped towards the path. A distinctly unhappy individual with piercing magenta eyes, dark brown skin, and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite looking like he wasn't even 18 yet. Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with a hand to add the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched him patiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically as well as literally put her foot down at that, stomping in frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion.
Come on.
We do know you! Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pained. Sorry. You honestly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him, is that it? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him, it was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated itself. Well, do you know me? I'll tell you, I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance in his general day-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us and you'll survive without him. Now, stop loitering in the road. It's road. Excuse me? We're the rude ones? The high-strung rating got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up again in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With the declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily towards where the group left, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. Oh, people can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not that hard. Don't worry though, I bet you won't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry I can't stay to talk to you, but I hope you have a really nice life. Bye! And that was it. His final parting words given, Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit, stunned, only to frown when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he'd appeared. It happened so fast you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields and his birthday was October 30th. I would have proved it, but no. Well, whoever Nate is, he sucks. He was so unnecessarily unpleasant. All you wanted to do was talk to someone for a moment. Why aren't you running after him? Liz merely shook her head, pushing off childish thoughts. I think we can leave it there, thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip, and it was already enough to being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given a chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell there wasn't much humor to it. She was mad at that guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip, and it's not usually how things are.
Right?
True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. Yeah. Bye, Shiloh. Liz smiled at you, and at the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, little baby bro. Let's finish up our own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. Two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. And by the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched your back as you stretched your arms towards the ceiling, and while it had been a good day, had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room, I mean, the guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She'd had quite a lot to say on the subject when you'd first taken over her bigger room after she left for college, but there have been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more like a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Let it go, Liz. Never. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in that guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving and I'll have Christmas. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed her familiar grin and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to a separate room, and you were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Design your room, making it August. Ho ho ho. Layout blue. Extras. Yeah, have a hamper in there. Window, left, right. Oh yep, all of the zhuzh. Oh. Yep, we're zhuzhing up. Alright, now floor. Yep, zhuzhed. I want my room full. You're really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world.
Hi gaming, how are you? Welcome.
As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. And when you turned back around, you realized you were not alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Spider-Man. Fucking hell, this guy's gonna break an ankle one day. Cove Holman. Oh my god, he's adorable as fuck, damn! Oh my god, I want to squish his cheeks. Damn, he's adorable! We got the fluffy comb! Damn, son! Who is this man? You can see why I stayed loyal. Whoa, my! Bro grew up into a freaking icky man. Fuck you, go stupid fat. The shock knocked all the words out of you. Surprise? His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was surprised. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind your own house. He hadn't answered how he suddenly just appeared back in Sunset Bird, though to be fair, he'd been too astounded to actually ask a question. Thankfully, Cove took the hint from your stunned expression and began to explain.
So,
I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way. The window. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You barely believed that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. Hope that's alright. That was when you truly understand. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first point of call, taking precedence above all else. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity rather than allowing his plans to change. You laughed. The delight bubbled out of you as a fit of chuckles. He could never even attempt to hide how he felt about anything, including you. Cove dropped from his seat on the windowsill, landing lightly on his feet. He made his way over to you, the smile still resting on his face. trouble's back in town. You smiled at him. He's got, I don't know what, I just want to fluff his hair. Your smile fueled 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 own, brightening him up even further. Being the focus of your joy and attention made a blush bloom on his skin like flowers blossoming in spring. Yeah, I missed you. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 was grinning wildly, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. And obviously, was the trip any good? Yeah, I had a great time. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 told you about how his trip back had gone. His mum was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 was going to be sticking around in Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they ever could be. With 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 back once more, you feel at ease. See, this was what it was all for. This is why I kept playing this game. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you'd been busy reuniting.
Well,
I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. Want to come with me? You know I do.
cool.
Cool. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 began to head to your bedroom door. You insisted on a piggyback ride. It was a special occasion. Wait. You being back is a big deal. You have to commemorate it properly. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 turned confused. I need you to give me a ride to celebrate. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 didn't say anything, his eyebrows raised in disbelief.
Seriously?
Really, Arthur? You want me to carry you downstairs? You nodded. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 rolled his eyes, but he bent down so that you could clamber onto his back. Even while he was crouched down, give me up, he said. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 back was a steep peak for you. After a couple of unsuccessful attempts of you trying to jump up there, 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 swatted a bit lower. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 wobbled as he straightened up, not terribly unaccustomed to balancing someone on his shoulders. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 carried you down the stairs. You had to duck a couple of times, the ceiling grazing against your elevated head, but still, you safely reached the ground floor of your house. The door's gonna be in the way. Get off here so I can open it up. He bent down to let you slide safely off his back. Seeing things from your usual height was disorientating after getting accustomed to looking down at everything. In all the excitement of 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮's return, you hadn't even remembered the gift you prepared for him when he got back. It'd be best to give it to him now before he left your house. Oh, can you wait here for a little while? I got something for you. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮's eyes widened as he tried to conceal a smile. He toyed with the collar of his top. Really? I mean, you didn't have to do that. You nodded with some eagerness, trying to imagine how he'd react when he actually saw it. The gift you'd chosen hadn't been something you could buy. It was the orange shell he'd been entranced with since you were kids. You quickly went up to your room to collect the shell, knowing exactly where to find it. It had been housed in the same box since you were a little kid after all, and taking great care of, you extracted it from the case. Though it had been a long time since you'd taken it out, the grooves were as familiar to your fingertips as the opening line to your favourite song to your ears. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 admired this shell ever since he first saw it, declaring it to be the best of all your treasures. Despite that, he'd never accepted your offers to take it, and you hoped that might change tonight. You closed your hands around the shell, not wanting 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 to see it until you were ready, and headed downstairs. When you were back in front of 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮, you cautiously lifted your arm up. He looked on curiously as you unfurled your fingers to show him the gift. Please, take it, or I'll have to smuggle it into your house. I really want you to have it. 𝐄𝐍𝐕𝐓𝐮 stared down at the familiar shell nestled in your palm. His mouth parted, though no words came out. He drew his eyes up to meet yours silently and found the answer to whatever question he couldn't speak. He put his hand over yours and broke the silence. Okay. It was as quiet as a whisper. His fingers were gentle as his words, brushing against your palm as he took the shell from your grasp. He cradled it carefully against his chest and smiled at you, his eyes bright. I'll keep it forever. Cove reverently laid the gift safely on the counter, but he didn't turn back to face you once he had ensured it was secure. Though his face was angled away from you, you caught his eyelashes fluttering, as if batting away tears. His throat bobbed as he swallowed bubbling emotions. You knew that Cove could be sentimental. The gift and all the memories and the feelings tied up in it seemed to have taken a toll on him. When he began to sniffle, you felt the need to reach out. Cove? I can't. You just... I don't know what to do. He forcefully scrubbed at his eyes, like he was trying to push the tears that threatened to spill back in. Cove, it's okay. Do you need to cry? No! Nevertheless, tears had begun to spill down his cheeks. Even as he wiped them away, more took their place. Thank you. His voice quivered as he spoke. You're welcome. Cove let out a steady breath. It was far removed from the shaky gasps that had accompanied his sniffles, and the tears had dried. His eyes were a little red, but open and at peace again. He smiled, fully recovered from the emotion that had overcome him. You're really, seriously, too nice to me. You smiled back. You have no right to call anyone too nice. Cove brushed his hand against the pale ghost of a scar on his arm. He was at loss of what to do now. His clock ticked away, counting the seconds of silence. Once you'd had the chance to settle your thoughts, you'd figure you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I have to tell you, actually, you're never gonna guess who I saw today. You didn't give Cove a chance to reply. There seriously was no way he'd figure it out. Shiloh!
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. Oh, from when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, it was the freckly boy from that first summer, right? The one who moved. Yeah, the guy was named Shiloh, and he looked just like Shiloh from back then. He was wearing a hat still. But he had no idea who I was and ran off somewhere. Cove frowned. That's... I don't know. Too bad I missed it. I thought you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a short period of time, he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever really together because of the other people they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. Don't have any idea. Didn't say much.
Oh.
Oh well. That's everything you had on news item. So you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbours, the ones who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling that particular memory back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah. They're not coming. They didn't rent out the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The only couple you have in an institution as far back as you can remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I did not see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. It feels like I've missed a lot. It's been a busy summer already. Oh well, we haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Oh, that's something. We better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. As soon as you left your house, Cove bent down to let you climb onto his back for the last part of the journey. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning, your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was just so excited Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all of your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mum was watching you with a teasing smile. So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people.
Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble.
She winked at you, and you knew both of your mums wanted you to enjoy every bit of this summer before all the big changes started.
I'll try. But before you go gallivanting around town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up pushing the dishes way over here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
As soon as you were outside the front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too.
Hey.
Hey there, Arthur! Hi, good timing. You should come join us. You hugged him. Following your lead, Cove hugged you back and he held on for a few seconds longer after you let go. I mean, yeah, like, I will admit, like, Cove's dad's aged gracefully, damn, like, he's just not aging at all. His eyes shone brightly at you when you did part, sending your heart aflutter. And then, as Cove's cheeks flushed, he couldn't quite meet your gaze. He didn't speak, but you felt that if he did, he'd be tripping over his own tongue. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he'd thought of dancing on the tip of... He had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. So, what are you up to today?
Oh, me and Cove are meeting some friends later. We're gonna paint the town red.
Exciting! They won't know what hit him. Cove shook his head disapprovingly, but you knew him well enough to tell that he was entertained by your notion. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'll only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. Cove snorted some airy laughter at the suggestion. Oh, you think we'll have some competition? For several moments, Mr. Holden was unable to answer. He was still chuckling when he put his hands on his hips and tried to compose himself. Absolutely not. We're the #1 father-son duo in this town, and no one's changing that. I swear if it's fucking Jeremy. Pretty sure Cove's dad is single, actually. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. Listen, there's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean only until I have to meet up with Terry Miranda. Will that still work? With a wide grin breaking out in his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works! He moved to firmly place both hands over Cove's shoulder, fixing his charm with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time. You both watched his dad leave. You really liked Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. You alright?
Yeah.
Yeah, just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street for a while, huh? Oh, why don't I stay to see the new neighbour and keep him company? Curiosity about the new tenant was getting the better of you, and you figured that the wait wouldn't be too much longer. Besides, you just couldn't leave Cove. Really? Of course. I like keeping you company, remember? He stared at you for a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response.
Me too.
Well, I like that too. Then his eyes fixated on you firmly. Either you're my true ally in this world. Pat got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
You're always good to me. Oh, you're lucky to have me. Teasingly, Cove raised an eyebrow. You're the most lucky guy in all of Sunset Bird. Luckiest. For a moment, you weren't sure if Cove was laughing at your declaration or that you momently forgot the word luckiest. Either way, you didn't mind. The smile on his face reached his eyes and it made you feel electric. He then stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
That has to be them, right? Well, the only people who come up here live here. It has to be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wonder what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled up to a stop as you expected, in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in the moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. Damn! I'm just a kid. Damn! We got an emo boy in this town. He was a young man, had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white and grey outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of colour was from something that could easily be fashioned into submission. A pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Yeah, I'd wear that shirt, I'm not gonna lie. Hello folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled even further. It was cocky, and you didn't get the impression it meant something averse. Oh, hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The colour-coordinated man left it there, however, and with a firm click he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly, black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during a brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around a corner. The new renter had officially arrived. He left his suitcase on the ground and out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet the person, and you followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side as he was approaching from him. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You shook it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Oh, welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Arthur. Oh, hey, Arthur. I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove shook his hand, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove for a moment. Oh wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Ha ha! Oh, your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. No, I agree. It suits you. Oh, nice to see someone else knows. The impact might have faded for you living with it this long, but I promise, to the onlooker, it's a knockout. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed that Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. I'm sorry. I wasn't intended to mean more than I did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind it. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar with you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the over forwardness. Thanks. I'll pass, I think. You didn't answer the question. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a lull in conversation and Cove attempted to fill it.
So...
What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh yeah, well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off the semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
honestly...
Ideally, it's just they wanted to send me to somewhere that wasn't too exciting. But lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic so far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke firm, yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it. Plus, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged that you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hiccup or get a romantic fling started by saying those things? No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also, no. I am flexible, not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends, if we can. Cove wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I'm not interested in any of that with you. Maybe not the friend thing, the other part. You'd probably annoy a lot of people. I'd appreciate if you... You stood there, unsure of how to react. Baxter looked at you and smiled apologetically. I'll keep it in check. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you were both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You told Baxter you were both waiting to see who was going to move in. All we were doing was waiting for you to finally show up. Baxter laughed at that, immensely pleased with your response. I'm getting a reputation in this town already. Not bad. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
Goodbye.
Goodbye for today. Bye. Cove gave a small wave as well. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. I gotta admit, like, he definitely has the creepy vibe, but I kind of love how he just straight up was like, hey, I'm not here to break up your relationship, but if either of y'all get horny, I'm here. I'm open. I'll take you both. I don't care. You're both hot. But if you don't want it, I'm also cool with that. Have a good day. It's like, you know what? You shot a shot. Respect. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath. Because like, it'd be one thing if he was like being weirdly obsessive over one of them, but it was just a flat, complete like, you're hot, I'll take either. I'm not fussed, and if you don't want to take, totally fair. We can be friends. Alright, cool. I'm putting my stuff inside. Bye. It's just so blasé. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm going to explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter trying to imagine the conversation. Well, at least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You thought he was charming. You really weren't sure when, but at some point, Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. Laughing quietly, you wondered how Baxter would fit in with the rest of the neighbourhood. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all your thoughts of Baxter aside, and you both started making your way towards town. A little while later, you and Cove reached a main street in town, and all of a sudden, you stopped walking. Huh? What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. Before you could read it, you were distracted by a small amused noise by Cove. His head was slightly tilted to the side as he carefully looked at your old keychain. I can't believe you still have that. Now, someone was crazy enough to get it for me, so I may as well use it. He grinned, looking at the keychain fondly. He laughed, remembering the day he bought it for you.
nice.
Well, I'm actually glad you like it. He looked back at you with a playful grin. Especially since it cost me a whole $6. That's like $30 in kid money. His matter-of-fact tone had you laughing deep. It took several moments to compose yourself enough to speak. Got you, have fun getting groceries, Shara. Yeah, it does a bit, doesn't he, goes to, yeah? Yeah, no, I think that's safe. Yeah, flashy flirt category until he ends up being a dick, yeah. Oh, man, I didn't realise that was the going rate. Oh, it was then. Probably more now. So you're trying to say that you were a big spender? On kid money, yeah. No, it's definitely a high roller, remember? I had both of you bursting into fits. Smiling, you were focused on the task at hand. You opened the new text from Miranda and all you saw was, I can see you! Immediately from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. I see you looking. Where are you? Oh, come on. Really, Randy? Oh, right. Haha, come on. The message was sent and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces. And then they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow.
Rest well, Noct, sweet dreams.
Miranda, come on out! Cove jumped a bit with your sudden outburst. He raised an eyebrow and looked at you carefully. What's happening? Before you can even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. And then you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store, and they both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. Grinning, he put his hands around his mouth to better project his message across the street. Hey! Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stepped only to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street.
Hi.
Hi! I hope you weren't willing to wait. I hope you weren't waiting too long. Oh, she's adorable as an adult.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies! Oh, they both look cool.
Thank you for the hydrate.
You know what? I've been like fighting off a yawn. Like the past 20 minutes. So you know what? Yes. Yeah, you know what? This might be a good place to call it for tonight. Just because we're like at the start of the next scene. So, our main mission was accomplished. And by that I mean we are now in the adult stage, which means we're in the stage where we can finally raise the man. And our goal is to eventually get ourselves a fluffy buff. He's so adorable. I'm gonna fluff all of his hair and just do. Oh my god. But yes. Alright, now with that saved, let's actually pop over to stream ending, otherwise I'll be yapping for eternity and I can feel my brain like dying. But yes, so thank you guys so much for joining me for my stream tonight. I had a wonderful time playing Our Life with each and every one of you and committing grievous riz. And we are one step closer to getting our man. Right, let's see. Ooh, let's do this person. Why not? Found a person doing art. Let's go with them. Alright, so yes,
Thank you guys so much for joining me. I had a great time, and thanks for being patient with me as well, because I was originally going to stream on Wednesday, and then I completely forgot to put out the message. So I was like, all right, I'll stream on Thursday, and then I died because math took me out.
look, in my defense, it's an Australian summer right now, and I'm a ginger, so. Anyway. Look, I keep forgetting. Every time I finish stream, I forget immediately. Oh yes, to anyone who likes my flesh tube nonsense, I did post another video before I went live.
I know.
But yeah, so that being said, let's set up this raid. Shadow Legends. Alright, how do I actually like set up a notebook dragon? Did I set up a thing? Or is it flesh tube? I swear. It could be flesh tuber. Yeah, it's flesh tuber. Should probably just change that to flesh tube then, since that seems to be like the automatic response. I will never not love the phrase flesh tuber because of how fucking stupid it is. Oh, fuck off. Okay, raid should be set up. Okay. Yeah, so raid message is posted. It's once more. Thank you guys so much for joining my amazing time. I'm gonna be each and every single one of you, and I will see you guys next week. And I'll probably be streaming around like Wednesday, Thursday, around that point. I will see you guys next week, and I'll probably be streaming around like Wednesday. But I will do the thinking when next week happens, because I have no thinkings right now. You could like probably like feel like I'm dying. But yeah, so have an amazing evening, hugs and kisses all the way up, blah, 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 blah. All right, you guys are the best. I can't wait to see you guys next week, and I'll see you in the Discord. Oh yeah, we got a community night tomorrow as well, so games night. So if you want to play games and commit crimes in the Discord at 8:30 p.m. ADT, we'll be doing games. So it's bye for now and until tomorrow. So yeah. Oh yes, and another episode of that like really cool like villainous boomer anime came out, so we're gonna watch that first. Anyway, bye bye, sleep well, and now I'm gonna go pass the fuck out. Rating in 3, 2, 1. Night night.
little bit more.